Right now, as you're watching this video, something unprecedented is happening that could change America forever. What if the light switch in your home became useless? What if the ATM on the corner was just a dead box? What if your phone, your lifeline to the world, suddenly went silent? Not for an hour or a day, but for weeks. This isn't a Hollywood movie plot. This is a clear and present danger, a ticking time bomb, set to go off within the next 12 to 18 months. While you are going about your daily life, a series of events has been set in motion that will impact every single American, but 10 states in particular are in the crosshairs. 10 states are on the verge of a total blackout, a complete societal shutdown from which recovery is not guaranteed. According to a leaked Department of Homeland Security document, codenamed Project Nightfall, the threat is not just possible, it's probable. What I'm about to tell you will change everything you thought you knew about the safety and security of your own home. The question is no longer if this will happen, but when. And is your state on the list? The American power grid, the most complex machine ever built, is also our greatest vulnerability. For decades, we were told it was robust, resilient. That was a comforting lie. The truth is, it's a patchwork of aging, crumbling infrastructure. Over 160,000 miles of transmission lines, many of which were built during the Eisenhower administration. It's a system designed for a bygone era, now facing 21st century threats. And here's what they don't want you to know. The threat is no longer just a hurricane or a snowstorm. It's a coordinated, multi-pronged assault. Project Nightfall, the document our sources risked everything to obtain, outlines a terrifying two-phase strategy being simulated by our adversaries. Phase 1 involves exploiting our aging grid with precision cyberattacks. We're talking about state-sponsored hackers, not kids in a basement. These are digital armies with billion-dollar budgets whose sole purpose is to find the weakest links in our system. They've spent the last 5 years mapping our entire electrical infrastructure, from massive generation plants down to local substations. They know which transformers are oldest, which control systems are running on outdated software. Sounds unreal? It's absolutely real. The report states, and I quote, "The American electrical grid is no longer a domestic utility. It is the primary battlefield of the 21st century. This isn't about politics, Republican or Democrat. This is about survival. It's about whether you can heat your home in the winter, access your money from the bank, or even get clean water from your tap, because when the power goes out, everything else follows." Now let's get to the heart of the matter. The 10 states teetering on the brink. This isn't speculation. This is based on the data within the Nightfall report, cross-referenced with public infrastructure audits. First on the list, California. This will shock you. It's not just about wildfires or rolling blackouts during heat waves. The state's aggressive push into renewable energy has created a new, unforeseen vulnerability. Each of the millions of solar inverters in homes and businesses is a potential digital entry point. Adversaries don't need to attack a massive power plant. They can weaponize the grid from the inside out, using the very technology designed to save it. A coordinated hack could cause a frequency imbalance so catastrophic it would fry transformers across the state. The economic impact? An estimated $5 billion per day. The timeline for this specific attack vector to be ready is, according to the report, less than 9 months. Your Tesla will be a brick in the driveway. Your smart home will be a dumb, dark box. Second, Texas. We all remember the winter storm of 2021. That was a dress rehearsal. What happens next? No one is ready for. The Texas grid, ERCOT, is infamously isolated from the rest of the country. This independence, once a source of pride, is now its Achilles heel. Project Nightfall details a scenario where a cyber attack shuts down the natural gas pipelines that feed the majority of its power plants, while simultaneously disabling the interconnections that would allow it to draw power from other states. It would be a total energy island, plunged into darkness. The numbers don't lie. A 3-week blackout in Texas would cost its economy over $150 billion, disrupting global energy markets and paralyzing American oil and gas exports. Imagine Houston, a city built on air conditioning, facing a humid summer with no power. It's a humanitarian crisis waiting to happen. Third is New York. The target here isn't just the state, it's the global financial system. A blackout in New York City is a kill shot to Wall Street. But here's the twist they've planned. The attack isn't just about turning the lights off. It's a data corruption event. The plan is to trigger a blackout during peak trading hours, and in the chaos, inject malicious code to alter financial records, wipe out transactions, and create untraceable panic. The lights might come back on in a week, but the trust in the U.S. financial system would be shattered for a generation. Your 401k, your bank account, your mortgage, all could be thrown into question. This isn't about spoiled food. This is about the complete collapse of digital wealth. The clock is ticking on this one. Fourth, we have Florida. Everyone knows the hurricane threat, but our enemies know it too. The Nightfall report outlines a force multiplier attack. The plan is to wait for a Category 4 or 5 hurricane to be tracking towards the coast, and just before landfall, launch a widespread cyber attack on the state's utility control centers. This would cripple their ability to reroute power and manage the grid during the storm. It turns a natural disaster into a complete societal breakdown. Evacuation routes would be clogged in darkness. Hospitals running on backup generators would eventually fail. Communication would be non-existent. The recovery effort, which normally takes weeks, could take months, costing the state an estimated $200 billion and displacing millions of its residents permanently. Fifth on this alarming list is Michigan. As a hub of American manufacturing and the heart of the auto industry, Michigan's grid is old, built for a different century. The shocking revelation here is the vulnerability of the industrial control systems, the digital brains that run everything from assembly lines to water treatment plants. Many of these systems are decades old and were never designed to be connected to the internet. They are a hacker's paradise. A targeted attack wouldn't just cause a blackout, it would physically destroy manufacturing equipment, setting back American industry by years. Your job in the supply chain could vanish overnight. The price of a new car would skyrocket. This is just the beginning of the economic fallout. Sixth, Ohio. Much like its neighbor Michigan, Ohio is part of America's industrial backbone, but its primary vulnerability is different. It's a critical crossroads for the national grid. Major transmission lines carrying power from the Midwest to the East Coast all run through Ohio. The state is a keystone. The Nightfall report details a cascading failure scenario. By targeting just 3 key substations in rural Ohio, an attacker could destabilize the entire eastern interconnection, potentially blacking out dozens of cities from Chicago to New York. The timeline for this is frighteningly short, as these rural substations have notoriously weak physical and cyber security. It's the electrical equivalent of taking out a single bridge to paralyze an entire army. The cost would be in the trillions. Seventh, Illinois. home to Chicago, a massive transportation and commercial hub. The threat here is a combination of old infrastructure and new complex energy markets. But here's what they don't want you to know. The specific vulnerability being targeted is the nuclear power infrastructure. Illinois has more nuclear reactors than any other state. While the plants themselves are heavily fortified, the external power systems they rely on for cooling are not. A sophisticated attack would aim to cut the plants off from the grid, forcing them into emergency shutdown. While a meltdown is unlikely, the sheer panic of multiple nuclear plants going offline at once would be enough to cause mass chaos and a complete loss of faith in the safety of our energy supply. Eighth is Pennsylvania, another critical keystone state, rich in energy resources but plagued by an aging grid. The unexpected connection here is the Marcellus Shale natural gas formation. The digital systems controlling the flow and pressure of these pipelines are the primary target. An attack wouldn't just stop the flow of gas to power plants up and down the East Coast. It could be far more sinister. Hackers could manipulate pressure valves to cause physical explosions at compressor stations, turning a cyber attack into a kinetic, real-world attack on American soil. This would cripple home heating for millions in the dead of winter and demonstrate a terrifying new level of hybrid warfare. Your heating bill would be the least of your worries. Ninth, we turn to Georgia, specifically Atlanta. The vulnerability isn't just the city's power grid, but the single point of failure it represents for the entire nation. Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. The world's busiest airport is a city within a city with its own complex power and logistical needs. A localized but prolonged blackout targeting the airport and its supporting infrastructure would trigger a global supply chain and transportation nightmare. The cost would be $10 billion per week, but the real damage would be strategic. It would paralyze military transport, medical supply chains, and business travel nationwide. This sounds unreal, but it's a highly strategic, asymmetric attack designed to cause maximum damage with minimal effort. Finally, 10th on the list, Arizona. 2 words, heat and water. The state's survival depends on a massive, energy-intensive system to pump water from the Colorado River across the desert. The Central Arizona Project is a lifeline. A cyber attack targeting the power supply to these pumping stations in the middle of a July heat wave would be a death sentence for crops and livestock and create an immediate water crisis for Phoenix and Tucson. It weaponizes the climate itself. Border security systems, which rely on power for sensors and communications, would go dark. The report calls this a societal collapse scenario, where a power outage quickly escalates into a water, food, and border crisis simultaneously. The clock is ticking for Arizona. So what does this all mean? This isn't about 10 separate events. This is about a cascade. The 10 states on this list are not islands. They are dominoes. The failure of one will put unbearable strain on its neighbors, leading to a chain reaction of blackouts that could plunge half the country into darkness. We are looking at a future that could include energy rationing, designated power-on zones, and a complete loss of our digital way of life. This is the pessimistic scenario, a darker, colder, and more dangerous America. But there is another path, a cautiously optimistic one. This warning, this leaked information from Project Nightfall, could be the wake-up call we desperately need. A chance to harden our infrastructure, to secure our digital borders, and to treat our power grid like the critical national security asset it truly is. But that requires action, and it requires it now. Sources are already telling us that Phase 2 of this plan, targeting our communication and water purification systems, is already in development. This is just the beginning. What you've just heard is not meant to scare you, but to prepare you. Knowledge is the first line of defense. The mainstream media isn't covering this with the urgency it deserves, but the threat is real, and the timeline is shrinking. Which state do you think is the most vulnerable, and why? Let us know in the comments below. If you found this information valuable, if you believe your friends and family need to hear this, send this video to everyone you know. This is not about fear, it's about preparation. And most importantly, hit that subscribe button and turn on all notifications. Our next report will expose the one common household item that could be a Trojan horse for these attacks, and what you can do right now to protect your own home. You cannot afford to miss it. Stay safe, stay informed,